All right. Good morning, everybody. Sorry for doing a last minute live stream. The plan for today was actually to go out into the field and release a video on land navigation and incorporate a base plate compass with a, UTM map. I've been kind of doing a small series on that. But instead, I got up early and decided to work on some software. And I got into what we call in the industry a flow state and really enjoy where some of the new software for offline radio and preparedness is coming together. So I want to share that with you. So we're going to do this fun. We're going to start with the fun stuff first. I'm going to go right into this demo here. So I've been working on something called MCOM tools. The purpose for this project has evolved. Actually, the purpose has not evolved. The software has evolved over the last 4+ years. And right now, I have finally got to the point where it supports plug and play. So if you're really not into amateur radio and not a technical person, the platform allows you to take a decent set of radios, connect them to a computer that is designed to be offline from the get-go. It does not require the internet whatsoever. And I've added some capabilities in the first release last November, the R3 release. I added the capability to do that plug and play support. So all you have to do is enter your call sign and optionally your grid square. And that really is it. And then select your radio. And then was adding support for a bunch of amateur radio digital modes that don't require you to configure everything. The sound card, the cat control, all of that is done for you. But again, my vision had always been to make this really be an air-gapped, offline, not connected thing to the internet. This is something that software engineers in the industries are not doing anymore. In fact, I think with Windows 11, you can't even use it without pretty much being online. So my software is kind of taking a 180-degree turn in the other direction. But some of the other capabilities that I have been working on is this idea of having a meaningful offline map set. Right now, I support it for the US all the way down to about the interstate highway zoom level. Canada, Australia, and UK are coming in the November release. And then I've started to add some services that all run locally that work with offline data sets. So here's the thing that I want to show with you that kind of kicked off this video. Actually, before I do that, I want to say, welcome to William for joining. John, looks like we also have about 35 other people. Guys, smash that thumbs up button. I'm still in YouTube hell. I can use any likes and subs that you have. Oh, and we've got my buddy Tango Oscar Mike. He's got a YouTube channel as well. So here's the thing I want to solve. I was scouting out land last week in southeastern Arizona for a future field training company. I want to take people out into the field and do what I call the TTP experience. And that's how I deploy gear that is sustainable for long periods of time without a grid tie in the field, deploying shelters, deploying antennas, and then making meaningful targeted contacts. So the gentleman I was with is the guy who actually makes I don't have one with me here, a lot of my soft good products, like right now the nav kit, which I just sold out of. And he was curious on how to establish a communication with people in the county he's in the state, the region, and the U.S. in general. And what I told him was, yeah, there's a bunch of different kind of rules that as amateur operators we know about HF propagation. So what time of day, which band, what time of year, how much power, which modes. And his head started spinning that there's a lot involved. So I've been working on kind of reimagining something called VOACAP, Voice of America Capture and Analysis Program, but making it dead simple for the off-grid operator to use. Okay. So now that the MCOM Tools platform, if you plug in a supported GPS, it will detect your location. there is an offline FCC call database that will geocode all the ham radio operators down to their zip code. It doesn't leak any information beyond the zip code. I'm doing this for some other markets as well. But I've got this little tool that I wrote here. So let's say that I want to figure out how to talk to my buddy Jason, KM4ACK, who has another excellent YouTube channel. Well, I have this little command line tool. And again, people don't like the command line. So that's what we're going to show today, how to correct this. And I can put in a variety of options to predict our path. So I will put the receiving call station's call sign, KM4ACK. I also support the ability to put it in a grid square or a latitude and longitude. How much power we have available on our transmitter. Right now it's P equals 20 for 20 watts, and which mode of operation, because the mode is actually important in doing that prediction. So if I hit enter here, what we're going to get with the offline prediction engine that has been in development for over 70 years, 70 years, we get this table. All right. And I didn't build the piece that generates this table. This was written by somebody else, but I did write the pieces that make it simpler and easier to use. So right now, for example, it is 1536 UTC. So we go over here, we've got all of the hours in a 24-hour window going across the top here. So we're roughly in kind of this period right here. And we can see that we have a score of A going down these vertical columns. So we know right now, for example, that we could probably make a contact on 20 watts using JS8 call on the 10 meter band, the 12 meter band, let's see here, 15, 17, and 20. And that's roughly what I would expect. Probably in the evening, if we ran this again, it might say something like 40 meters. Really not seeing that. Oh, yeah. So here in the evening, we can see that we would have a good A and going to this side over here. So a lot of people, even though I've done a lot of the heavy lifting work here for you, a lot of people really can't interpret this. So the big application and where my R&D, my research and development budget from now until this release on Thanksgiving is geared around a variety of tools that I have already written, and it's a work in progress. So I've got this tool that I'm working on called ET Predict. And you can see here what's happening in just a second. So first thing, what happened is a offline map for the entire United States is running on this machine. It's not connected to the internet whatsoever. Again, I'm working on maps for 3 other markets in addition to the US. Canada is actually already supported. The other thing it did is it geodetected my location. Now, in the absence of GPS, MCOM tools, when you configure it, there's a command called ET user, and this is really the only configuration you ever have to do. You put in your call sign, you put in your grid square, and optionally your WinLink password if you have one. But when you put in your grid square, either the 4-digit or the 6-digit grid square, it'll use that as a fallback. So even if I don't have onboard GPS and I know my grid square, I can put that in and it'll recenter you there on the map. So if I go off screen here and start to look around, zoom out, I can always go ahead and just click this little icon over here to go back to my position. So really handy. In fact, if you are moving, and let's say I take this gear and go out to the field and I click that icon, it'll also re-ask GPS for my information. So good group of guys here. Okay. The interface that I'm also building here is very similar to the user interface that I've already developed for that offline flight tracking program called ET Aircraft. You guys have seen demos on this. It uses the same principles: offline map, offline FAA database, local search index, no internet required. I absolutely hate how everything is tied, especially with the latest AWS DNS outages. So big fan of going to 90s tech for the development. So over here, just like ET Aircraft, we have the ability to expand this area. And very raw, but right now we have a couple of options for dropping a pin of a remote station we want to find information about. So the call sign database right now is current as of, I think, about a month ago. So let's say, again, we do that same example. We'll put KM4ACK. We will go ahead and search, and it talks to a local search engine here. We can see that first name is Jason. So if you guys are ever in the field and the call sign for the US, Canadian market, UK, or Australia are in there, at least you'll be able to, without internet, recognize what their first name is. We also get very limited information on what they have on file with the FCC. It's going to be limited to your city, your state, and your zip code. There's no address stored whatsoever. In fact, the geo coordinates that we use to represent this pin is actually tied to the zip code itself. There's a small 54,000 line database called GeoNames that has a representative latitude and longitude for every zip code, at least in the US. And that's what I'm using. We get the grid, we get the latitude and longitude tied to that zip. And then we get the altitude of that location as well as the distance from me. So 1,456 miles takes us from Arizona all the way out here. We can go ahead and hide this so we can play more with the map. Earlier versions of my software, which I will be incorporating, had a line that would connect this to. So that's coming. It also had the ability to drop pins. So really cool. So this is the thing that started off this video, if you guys are still with me. So let's say that you're new to amateur radio, you've got your general class license, you're operating on HF, you're in the field, and you want to be able to figure out how to make a contact with maybe someone that's in your circle that's running other digital modes. Well, sure, we can go ahead and run this program I just showed you, and we can go enter in all those details. We can change GSA from the mode to single sideband. We can run a new prediction. We can interpret this this chart here. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay. But again, my goal is to make this simple, simple, simple. That is what this platform is about. So this morning, instead of making a video like I was supposed to, went down a rabbit hole, and you'll notice that when I put in a call sign, we'll do, let's say now my buddy, WN7D, hit enter, redoes the calculation. Again, we know that that's Brian, for example. We get a new distance of 32 miles. He's actually pretty close to me, right? We can see us on the map here. We get a bearing. There's this new predict button. And again, I wanted to make this dead simple. If you guys are used to the excellent voacap.com HF, that's great. It requires an internet tie, and it gives you a lot of information. But I just want a swag estimate on what is the likelihood for me to be able to make a contact. So this data right now is mocked. It's actually not talking to this actual data set. That's the next step I'm going to be working on this afternoon, tomorrow, probably the next few days. But you can see how quickly. So right now I'm in the field. I don't care about a few hours from now. Right now I want to make a contact. So it has a tab here called Now. There will be a threshold you can set in the setting. In general, it's going to be set to, you have to be above 75% reliability. What is the chance that on 20 watts, JS8 call, for example, we're going to be able to make that happen? So there's a lot of the amateur radio bands, but the way this is designed to work is right now, it'll show you the list of bands, 40 meter, 30, 20, again, mocked up data, and then it'll give you the reliability score. So without really thinking about it, without understanding how your power, your mode, time of day, time of year, all of that impacts it, I'm trying to make MCOM tools continue in that fashion of not only being off-grid, offline first, but simple to use. All of this is touch-based. You don't even need a keyboard. But outside of now, let's say that there isn't anything that's above, let's say, the 75% threshold, and this table has no suggestions for you. You're out of luck. Well, there's this option called Later, and Later will just look at those other values that I had out here. And again, so you just don't get confused with the sea of text. Instead, you're looking at, okay, let's see, 8 a.m. Zulu or 0800 Zulu time, 20 meters. Here's the reliability. And then there's this other time at 1200 Zulu on 17 meters. And then we have 1800 Zulu on 15. I will be adding another tab called All, which will give you the entire 24-hour period. But that's my goal with trying to help people get into what I call true off-grid communication. I'm probably the biggest nerd that there is. And I can't stand what I'll call the nerd shit. It really pisses me off that you have to have an advanced degree to connect your computer, figure out how to get your audio levels just right, all of the configuration settings. Heck, I mean, the tool that I just showed you, vocap, I don't think it was designed for humans. And in fact, the way that I wrote it, where it can take a variety of call signs, do the reverse lookup, that's not included in that architecture. I mean, you have to go and figure out the latitude and longitude yourself. There is a fairly lengthy input file you have to generate. So I've tried to do all of those things under the hood because, again, I'm in this thing for disaster scenarios. You're under stress. And I want to help the operator as much as possible. I know this might be a little bit of a crutch and probably too much for most people, but I think this is kind of the future of amateur radio. And I'm actually calling to arms other developers to get away from the old way of doing things in amateur radio that at its core aren't offline first and simple to use second. So that's all I want to talk about. So let me go ahead and kind of go through some of the comments here. So I think we have Wayne, welcome. Same thing with Tyler, WX4ES. My buddy Floyd, he's doing some great stuff. He was a tremendous supporter of my work early on. And he also had a UX UI company some time back. So a lot of the work that I'm working on is inspired by some of the work that his design team helped me put together a few years back. So I'm finally, now that I'm doing this full time and not working in corporate America anymore, I finally have time to sit down and do some real work here. Guys, I'm going to go down through probably the remaining comments. We're going to close it. So if you have any comments, put them in right now. I've got at least 10 in the queue here. So I did a thing, just adding engagement. Thank you, buddy. Lance, I caught a live stream. Yeah, you did. It was a last minute one. Oh no, not another timeline change. Benjamin, I don't even know what that thing is, but there's like is that a Pac-Man? Lance, howdy from the Republic of Texas. Cheers from Arizona, buddy. Our states are pretty similar in terms of lots of freedoms. Benjamin, anyone know a YouTube that does satellite work? There's Save It for Parts. He also just quit his job. In fact, he quit his job on the same day that I did. So it's Save It for Parts. He could use some support too. And he does some cool stuff where he'll track some old birds that have been flying around that have been pretty much decommissioned but are still operational. Swamp Fox, I think he's suggesting Digital Rancher. Not familiar with that. Have to check that out. Okay, more thank yous. We got Tom, Tango, Oscar, Mike. That will be useful. He's probably referring to the mapping feature. Rob, this is fantastic. Yep, I mean, this stuff excites me. Like I said, I was supposed to make a video, supposed to take the pup out. I'll do a trail run, but not going to film that nav video today with the compass. That'll be tomorrow. More satellite stuff. Looks like Hiking Guy 32. He usually makes it pretty early to a lot of the content I deploy or release. Xander, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Xander Mark says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Yep, please, guys. This is my full-time job now, so I could use all the help. Speaking of that, I did run out of the land nav kits, but I have 250 in the pipe. I hope to get them in early December. If you guys are an FZM1 user and have a Mark 1 or Mark 2, I do have 18 iKey keyboards left in shop.thetechprepper.com. But outside of that, I'm pretty much all out of my goodies. Bob says here, once you add these features plus the repeater for dummies, I'll be so happy with MCOM tools. So what Bob is referring to, um, I had shown a prototype maybe 2 years ago where I took the same platform, right? We had offline maps. I have my background in the software world is on building search engines. In fact, I had a cannabis search engine that died because of COVID. I thought I was going to be a multimillionaire, and COVID happened, and we had to shut down the business. But my background has always been in search since about 2008, and then kind of Unix going back to the late 90s. And I like taking data sets, and I like mining them and enriching them with information. And what I did with the repeater information that was out there was that I pulled it down, added some more information that was meaningful, cleaned up some of the data, indexed it, and then overlaid it with the map. And then, for example, when I was on the map, let's say that, this was, I'll go back to my pin over here. So we'll go back to my position. We'll hide this. There was an option here where I could do find repeaters near me, and it would do a distance calculation of all of the repeaters, at least that I had in the database for the US. And then it would present over here all of the details, the frequency, the repeater offset, the PL tone. And since MCOM Tools already does cat control for you automatically, it would manually program on the fly your 2-meter 440 radio. So it's kind of cool because imagine now that we've got the GPS functionality, I went to, like I said, Portal, Arizona. I was all the way down past Tucson down here. This was the Mexico or New Mexico border. I actually ended up going down here into this Chiricahua wilderness. If I had that capability built in, I would have been able to click the My Position, find repeaters near me, and I would have been able to just set the repeater connected to my 857D, which is the mobile rig of choice these days. So that's exactly what he was talking about with his comment of this will be great. So I've developed a lot of tiny little prototypes over the years, but I'm slowly now starting to move them over because I am doing 2 days of R&D. So again, shameless plug, if you guys want to see me do more innovation, more think tank stuff like this, please consider supporting me over on Buy Me a Coffee. I'm looking at funds right now, and not having a tech salary, it's really scary. I've paid myself now, it's been 2 months. So I've paid myself 4 times, and yeah, it's a little scary to see how long I can keep this going. But every little bit helps at whatever tier you can afford. I'd really appreciate it. So let's keep going here. I wish I could pronounce your name here, but it's Lou. I thought it was IOU. But welcome, Lou. Enjoy your content. Thank you. You're welcome, my friend. I did a thing. How long until the next community edition release, and what's up with the training business? Good question. So the next major release is going to be MCOM Tools R5. It's going to be released on Thanksgiving Day. I'm going to try to get the documentation ready just before it. And then I will be doing a live stream where I'll talk about how to do the install end to end, because you do have to build MCOM Tools yourself, and it requires some Linux work. But once you build the image yourself and put it on a USB drive, you can install it on any computer without an internet connection. Training company is kind of difficult. I have been looking for land now for 2 months. The one land that I did want, 40 acres, that was priced well, had some structures, would have been perfect. I put an offer, but someone outbid me and sniped that land. I was mostly focused in northeastern Arizona, which I still want to. So I had looked at Snowflake, Heber Overguard, but unfortunately, that's kind of far and remote to get to, as much as I like those areas. Last week, we were down in southeastern Arizona. I had someone offered me to use their property down in Portal, Arizona. Very remote, and the land's not ready yet. This coming week, my wife and I are going to be looking at Williams, which is just a little bit north of Flagstaff, and then significantly more northwest of that, we're looking at Seligman. So I'm still trying to find it. I think the first round of training is likely going to happen in Q1. The other good news is we did secure, or I did not secure, but someone who I'm very close friends with secured 40 acres in Tennessee. So very likely at the end of Q1, there will be a what I'll call the TTP experience, and it's going to be the first training class. And again, there'll be a lot of gating criteria on this training. So one, it's going to be geared towards the off-grid operator, that's able to do to move with gear on their back to start with. So there's some physical requirements, and you do have to bring an RV or camp on site. And the classes are going to be very limited, probably no more than 8 people total. So it's going to be very tight. And I think Tennessee, maybe somewhere on BLM, Arizona will be sometime in Q1 of next year. So I've got the training material I'm putting together in progress. So, I mean, we're going to do everything: shelter building, scenarios, digital communication, mostly focused on HF. VHF, UHF is not my wheelhouse. I'm more interested in longer, short-range communication, like outside of your county, no infrastructure, within your state, within your region, even all the way to your country boundaries, and even international if you had to. So that's in the pipeline. So Lee says, what version got VOACAP? So version 4 does not have VOACAP. VOACAP was introduced in the current R5 build. So this is going to be part of the R5 release that's coming on Thanksgiving. It'll have that ET VOACAP tool. So this tool is already in there if you're actively following the builds. So for example, when you run this guy here right now, in addition to either being geodetected or it pulling in your manually configured grid, if you don't have GPS, you also have the ability to programmatically enter an A call sign, so you can actually simulate 2 points even if you're not there. You can either put in the grid, lat long, and then you could do the same thing for the remote station. And then right now you can define your power. This will be not fixed power. In R5 right now, I have got increments of 5 watts, 20 watts, 100, 500, and then in the US, full legal limit. And then I've only modeled the AM, CW, JSA, and SSB mode. I am going to model the signal to noise ratio requirements for circuit A to circuit B for, let's see here, VARA, because VARA is also available in MCOM tools, as well as some of the FL Digi modes. I don't know how much of that is going to make it in the next few weeks, because I've got a lot going on. But yeah, R5 that's coming on Thanksgiving will have a lot of this stuff. John says Amazon store link. Very funny. I actually just started a Amazon store front, and what I'm doing there, wasn't even planning on cover this because I hate videos that are lots of shameless plugs, but I realized that I do need to be able to make some money. So let's actually talk about this real quick, guys. What do you think? So here's my starter Amazon store. I just posted it. Oh, that's not it. Let me go down here. Nope, that's the membership. Okay. And let's go ahead and head on over there. Let me switch screens. And what I'm doing is people typically ask me for all the components for a particular thing I work on. And it's always a pain finding the links. So the first kind of grouping of products that I'm working on, in fact, I actually have it right here if you guys want to see it, is what I'm calling the Universal Comms Kit. And what this is, number one, it doesn't cost you anything here. I wanted to be able to kind of redo my charging needs. In the past, I was really big on the Talent Cell 12 volt card size or deck card sized 5 volt and 12 volt charger. I still use those for things like my QDX, my QMX, and the TrueSDX. But realistically, I've been doing a lot more RV travel looking for land. And I have a charging need that includes my MacBook Pro, the system that I'm on that I use to film videos, edit videos, the Dell 7220, which is my development machine for MCOM tools. That's a tablet, 20-volt system. I've got my FZM1 Mark II, which is the small ruggedized tablets. That's a 15-volt DC system. And then I've got a bunch of 12-volt devices, whether it's radios, but then a bunch of 5-volt devices like my Garmin watch, my flip phone, my Android phone, and my iPhone. So this Anker 737, I can go through each one of these. They're all listed here. And I was going to do a video on this. So I love this 144 watt hour Anker. It's the 737 that links in the store. And what I like about it, it has USB-C PD charging. So I can use this with just the cable that comes with it to charge my MacBook Pro and my my Dell. And since both of those are what we call PD compatible devices, the Mac and the Dell will tell the charger, hey, I need, in the case of the Dell, 20 watts of power. So really good for this. But what I also like about this is that it's the right size. It's a little heavy for me to do full recharges. So that Dell has two 74 watt hour batteries, and I can charge both of them, both batteries, as well as have about 20% left of charge in this battery to charge other things. So this is a bag that's coming out. This is the HK 7-inch by 7-inch gear bag. It's a tribute to my late neighbor who passed away. The initials for HK are her first and last name. And I had a member who was in the textile industry who's making me or helping me with these. But this kit includes, number one, a little pouch here. And again, these are all in that store link. And I have a lot of DC devices that use the 2.1 or 5.5 millimeter by 2.1 millimeter adapters. So these all will adapt from that 2.1 by 5.1 millimeter adapter to a variety of other sizes. So this has been in my kit for years. So as I like to tell people, this little red guy here, this works great with my True SDX. The G works great to charge the 12-volt FT60 handheld, the VX60. This white one will mate with things like the Panasonic if needed, but I have the ability to adapt the barrel connectors to anything with just those components. And again, they're available at that link in the store. It's this guy right here on the bottom. And then the other bits that I have in the kit, you guys are saving me time for making another video on this stuff. Thank you. These are awesome questions. So there are what I call dumb devices. So the Panasonic Toughbooks, ToughPads that I love are typically about 15 to 16 volts. And they predate modern USB-C power delivery. So those devices are unable to tell the charger, hey, I need 15 volts at this amperage. They just can't do it. So part of that universal kit that I'm calling, I've included USB-C trigger cables. And this happens to be one for 15 volts. So you plug this guy in to your PD power source. This is the Anker 737. We've got the barrel connector, and this one plugs directly into the Panasonic. And if for some reason it does not, I can adapt. And let's say that I needed this connector here, plug this guy in, and able to charge that dumb device. So the 15-volt USB-C power delivery cable or trigger cable is one of the items. And the way it works is there's actually a little bit of circuitry built in here that tells the battery I need 15 volts. So the trigger cable, there are other trigger cables for like 9 volts, for example, 20 volts, get what you need. For me, I just needed 15 volts. And then I have another one here for 12 volts. So same company, same cable, same design. So in the field for the low power devices like the True SDX, QDX, QMX, even my FT818, I can go ahead and run those equipment directly off of this kit. So kind of heavy if you're carrying all of this on your person, but this is more when I take the RV and do that. Now, the last bit of kit gives me now ultimate flexibility and integration with amateur radio. So I think it's an 18-inch cable, but it is Anderson power pole on one side to barrel connector male on the other side. So I can take like my FT818, for example, requires that you mate it with a Anderson power pole. So the big question is then, how do you connect these two? Well, all I have to do is take my 12-volt trigger cable, connect it here, right? Connect this end to the 818 or whatever radio that has Anderson power pole, and then plug this guy in. And I've tested all of this on the meter. It will pull 12 volts as needed. Now, the other one I have here is, I'm a big fan of modular systems. And what I found here is I could take another cable that is roughly the same size, but the big difference is the adapter. So for example, I can connect male to female, and now we have a 36-inch cable that we can use in the field to go from Anderson to Anderson. But it gets even better than that. We can go ahead and go the other way. We can mate red to red on the Anderson. And now we have an extension cable that takes you from barrel connector 2.1 millimeter by 5.5 millimeter female to male. So long story short, that is one of the items that I have posted in the store. I'll be doing the same thing, putting a small kit together for the accessories I use, for example, for MCOM tools and the Panasonic. So it'll include things like the GPS units that work well, the SDRs, the V2, V3, V4, V5, ADS-B exchange adapters, some of the extension cables I like. So this is being built out now that this is kind of my bread and butter. So excellent question on the store. And guys, I wasn't planning on going more than 30 minutes. I told my wife that this was just a quick video to show that new software I was working on this morning. Let's see here. We've got Floyd. I see you've been using the Lab 599 TX500 MP. Any inside scoop on when they may be back in stock? I don't have any visibility. In fact, it took me 7 weeks to get it. I wrote a script to check the Desert Wireless website every 5 minutes for over 4 weeks. And what it did was it would pull down the web page that had the product listing and compare it to the last 5 minutes it pulled it. And then it would send me an email on whenever there was a change. And I just got tired of waiting for emails. So I just started to bug the support person, Alexander, every single day. And he finally said, okay, man, I'll send you an invoice when we get an order. But I did pay for that unit. And I'll tell you, I love it, love it, love it. If you guys haven't seen my last video or the videos that I did when I was in Portal, Arizona, let me show you something. I showed this on the last member live stream, so apologies if you guys were on the member live stream. But the reason why I love that radio, we're going to pull up. Yeah, let's go ahead and open up this guy. I'll tell you why I love that radio. And I'm not selling my FT818ND. I'm not selling my 857 or 857 Delta. But my go-to rig is going to be that TX500 MP. It meets my rugged requirements. It's compact enough in terms of being able to fit in my bag along with other gear in a way that I can have my water, my food, my medical shelter system, cook system, all of that stuff, and still bring radio. It's a little heavy, but really well worth it. It's 10 watts, which I'm not used to. I feel kind of blessed to have the extra 5 watts. For the last 5 years, I've been operating with 5 watts or less. So not quite a whole S unit above, but one doubling of power is about a half S unit, so it may help. But the reason why I love it is, again, I went out to Portal, Arizona. This was an area called the Chiricahuas. And I encourage you guys to watch that video I did about a week ago. And on three sides, there were at least rock structures that were up 1,500 to maybe 18, maybe even 2,000 feet above me. We had them on three sides. And deploying my end-fed half-wave, TIM N9 SAB's 40-meter end-fed half-wave at about 5 feet off the ground in the campsite, in the canyon, I was able to get up and over those peaks and make contact with my circle of guys that I talk to every day, 200 miles out. Again, you could do that same thing with any 5 or 10 watt, 20 watt radio. That's not a big deal. But what was different was that my bag maker brought his dog. So we hiked out about a mile out from the trailhead, still very much in the canyon. This guy, I don't know how much he weighs, but he is easily, 20 times larger than my pup Scout. And he found a stick. Good for him. My little guy Scout, about 18 pounds or so. He's like, oh, hey, man, you've got a stick. Let's go play. So the TX500 MP was sitting on this rock. And the feed line, I don't know if you can see it. The feed line is actually going across kind of the top right here position. And Scout goes to chase after the big dog with the stick. Big dog snags the coax cable. The TX500 MP launches from this rock, hits this rock, hits one of these rocks, hits the ground, and gets dragged 6 feet. What ends up snapping off is not the feed line. The feed line was intact. It happened to be the connection of the digi-rig going into the USB-A port of the computer. Everything was fine. We were able then to make our contact again within another canyon, but insert whatever radio. I know people don't like how I handle the my review, not review, of Yaesu's FTX-1F. If this was a Yaesu FTX-1F, someone would have been crying. In fact, the guy that I was with, Zach, his face turned completely white when he saw his dog had launched my brand new $1,600 TX500 MP. So absolutely love that radio. We had a great time. We even did some land nav, and we actually came up with a new limited edition design for 50 of the next 250 land nav kits. So a lot of fun. We have 70 people on, guys. Smash that thumbs up button. Like I said, I wasn't planning on going this long, but I do love the conversation here. Let's see. So John asks, how is the Baofeng Delta Mic 32 testing going? Well, I'm not a Baofeng guy, but I have every Baofeng I've ever bought. They are my disposable radio. And recently, I was at a ham fest at the West Valley Ham Shack tailgate a week before last, and I sold off pretty much almost all of my Motorola DMR radios, my Moto Turbo line. Was a huge fan because I reverse engineered a couple years ago on sabbatical the command and control operations, and I even showed it to you guys on the channel, but I did not want to get sued by Motorola, where I could track radios in the field. I could pull for their GPS location from my command and control station. I could send them messages. I could kill their radios. The problem is that I spent about $400 a pop for the Motorola 7550E, and this is used prices. Batteries for them are incredibly expensive. The programming software, or what they call CPS, is incredibly difficult to acquire. They've made it easier in the last few years. There's a process you can go through, like creating a Motorola account, then physically getting on the phone and calling them saying, hey, I want to convert this to a business account, then taking their online training, and then paying for all of the entitlements and downloading the software. It's a multi-week process, right? And then you only have a monoband, single band HT in the case of the Moto Turbo. So in my case, I have a business license, only 400 megahertz. And then if you want to use it with the amateur radio bands on analog, you have to get a special entitlement key so they can unlock it. So you could do analog and digital and do the 25 kilohertz widebanding. So for all of those reasons, I said, look, I don't have the time. I no longer have the money to do that. So I am evaluating the Baofeng Delta Mic 32, the DM32. And I can't comment on this anyway, but I can share with you why I went this route to get twin units. So I always tell people the best gear for you is the gear that meets your requirements, provides the value that you need it to provide, and is within your budget. Okay. So now that I'm self-employed and don't have a high-tech salary anymore, I think I paid $80 a piece for each of these. So about $160 shipped and delivered. And what's nice about them is that, they don't have an IP rating, but it looked and it certainly does feel a little bit more chunky than my previous interactions with the Baofengs. But what clicked it for me was that it is a dual band rig, VHF, UHF, so 400 megahertz, 140 megahertz, analog and digital. So I could use it for the amateur radio 2 meter and 440 band. I could do DMR on both of those bands for digital. I could use it with my commercial business license on 460 megahertz roughly. I'm pretty sure it's unlocked. So if I had to do interoperability, MERS, FRS, GMRS, great. Even interoperability with local agencies. I know that's not allowed, but in an emergency, I want to have the ability to do that. But what really clenched it for me, the CPS alleges to have AES 256-bit encryption that you can load yourself. So my wife and I are going to I'm going to program these for my business frequencies, in addition to all of the amateur radio things, in addition to FRS, GMRS, MERS, local public safety. But then I'm also going to load up on my 5 channels encryption keys. So when I go hunting, my wife and I can have encrypted comms on my business frequency. So $80. So if the ham radio community starts to get upset about encryption or the fact that it's a Baofeng and maybe spurious emission, what I tell people is get the gear that's right for you. Price point, utility, function, availability of software, inexpensive accessories. I can afford now to buy more than one battery. With the Motorola's completely out of my price range. So I am, like I normally do, I've got a field card in the works on how to do all the things I like to do. I like to tell people, it doesn't matter what radio you get into, how much experience you have, it's always difficult to get into new radios. So I am documenting how to deal with turning it on and off, how to deal with the volume, how to deal with the squelch, how to manually program frequencies into the front panel, how to do a factory reset if needed, do all of those things. So that's coming. And then also observations. I'm already finding some quirky things I don't like about it just yet. Let's see here. Wow, lots of good stuff. Chris says, and this is why I have a bag dedicated to dongles and adapters. He might be referring to things like these little pouches. I'm a big fan of accessory pouches. And these are coming, guys. I ordered about 200 of these units to start. He also says that the Amazon link for the Anchor battery needs to be updated. You click on it and there are none available. You have to click on something similar for that page. Yeah, I don't know if it's because they were all sold out, but I'll take a look at the page there as well. Let's see. Oh, Lauren, it takes a lot of work to make complicated things look easy. Again, he's referring to the software I showed earlier. In fact, Lauren is a family member, and when he first got into amateur radio, I showed him an early copy of MCOM tools where I had selected a radio. So I went ahead and ran ET radio, for example, and I forgot what radio it was, but I picked one of the radios I had with me. It was probably, I don't know, either one of the mobiles or it was likely one of the Yaesus, like the 818. And I clicked on it And then I plugged in the USB cable and everything just worked. And he said to me, you plugged it in. I said, yeah, I plugged it in, but it configured the cat control, it configured the audio level so you didn't have to, and then all you had to do was click on something like the JSA call icon and you're ready to be operational. So that has always been my goal, is doing a lot of work on my side. And it's taken almost 5 years to get to this point now where I actually have enough of the building blocks under the hood built to be able to get to that level. So yeah, that's always been my goal. Of I want it so simple. And I always tell people that are not Linux people, forget about the fact that it's built on Linux. It's an appliance. Linux is what I call an implementation detail. Don't look under the hood unless you want to, but the audience that I'm targeting are for people that, one, will never connect to the internet and really want to be more of an appliance operator. So simple and offline first are my goals here. Let's see here. So Floyd says you wanted 20 watts. Yeah, he might be referring to the TX500 MP. It would have been great if they did 20 watts, and it would have been great if they did a integrated digital mode interface with cat control. They didn't do it, but I love it. At some point, if this radio can survive the Sonoran Desert summers, it survives this winter that's coming up, I may sell one of my completely original man packs and get a second unit because it's absolutely fantastic. Oh, so William, also referring to the TX500 MP, says no knobs left. Yeah, and I don't want any knobs. One of the biggest, and I wish I had the radio with me here, criticisms of the TX500 MP, and you'll find it mostly from the amateur radio community. It doesn't have a VFO. There's no knob. And I'm not going to call myself a tactical operator. I want to call myself a purposeful operator that has a community of like-minded individuals. And we all have in our comms plan and in our wallets, we have a list of frequencies on multiple bands, and we've got them numbered. We call them our Victor channels, Victor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we channelize all of our radios. So if we're on the local repeater system or on local simplex and we say, hey, let's jump to Victor 5, we all know what that means. And we've got the channel programmed into our TX500. Works great. Early on, when I did some testing with not my unit, but my friend's unit who had one before I could get mine, we took it out to a really beautiful area. This is easily the most beautiful state park I've ever been to in Arizona, that has a lake, private access, very inexpensive, heated bathrooms, crazy stuff, called Fool Hollow. It's just before you hit Snowflake, I think, in Arizona. And we threw up Tim's NFED. We had the TX500 MP, and we tried working voice. So in the absence of the VFO, it's kind of nice. It's got up, down, left, right arrow keys on it. And we sat on, I think it was 14 megahertz. We were on the 20 meter band. We pulled out our field card, went to the bottom of the voice band, and we just used the up arrow key. And you have the ability to set how you want to increment the frequency. You could do it in megahertz, you could do it in kilohertz, or you could do it in like tens of hertz. And we just parked it at the 1 kilohertz range. So let's say that we were on 14.300 megahertz. By pressing the up arrow key, we're able to go to 14.301, 14.302, and we were able to step through it pretty quickly, and we made a lot of contacts. So not ideal if you're used to spinning the dial. Certainly not the radio for you if you want a waterfall. I've never been a spectrum scope guy. I've always just liked hearing to find things. But yeah, the no knobs is a design decision for people that want a radio like and use it the way I do, where we were in the park, in the canyon, the dog launched the radio. If there were knobs and things of that nature on there, goodbye knob, goodbye radio. So we've got Clayton Hamshack down. He's got a YouTube channel. Welcome, Clayton. Floyd asks, are you going to make a bag for that radio? I really wish I had it here. No, I'm not. In fact, the bag that I'm recommending for it, let me see if I can find it. I wish there was an affiliate link. It is and I showed it, yesterday on the live stream for the members. It is the Max, let me see if I can find it, Max Expedition 1 liter water bottle. Yeah, okay, I've got it here, guys. Stand by 1 second here. And again, there's and I didn't even buy this one. It's 29 bucks. I could not even touch that in the US. And I only make US products because I believe in keeping, I've got a sense of this country has given back so much to me and my family that I want to make sure I do all of the design, all of the production, and acquire all the materials in the US. So I can never touch this for 29 bucks. And this actually works pretty well. So it's a 1 liter water bottle holder. This little pouch here, I showed it on the live stream yesterday. I have one small gear pouch that holds the 4 connectors I use with that radio. They are 4 different N-type connectors. One goes to BNC, one goes to SO239, the other goes to PL259, and the last one goes to 38 by 24 threads for when I run my vertical RM40. And it holds that. It holds a mini antenna with a little bit of coax at the bottom, and it has another pouch. I'm using a World War II gas mask sealant kit that I found at an antique store with my wife, and I'm using that to hold the DigiRig Mobile, the short USB cable, and the short TX500 MP cable, and it all fits in this pouch here. So yeah, everything fits in there. The radio fits inside there. The only thing that's not a good fit is the hand mic. But what I do, at least in this configuration here, if you imagine the radio being in here, I do like a U-shaped configuration of the hand mic cord with the connector being on the inside, and then I drape the rest of the cord outside. And then at the bottom here, I'll clip on the hand mic. It's great. I every day carry this radio now, especially since I know I can use it with the TX500 MP and still get regional contact. So yeah, not making a bag. I did experiment with some interesting bags that were fails. I didn't talk about them, but I bought a bag, and it actually wasn't a bag. It was a triple AR-10 magazine pouch. And I just didn't like the way it worked, but it's ultra slick. And again, this is not the bag that requires frames. The radio is rugged enough, so no bag needed. Wow, you guys are coming with the comments here. I was not planning on doing an hour today. This was supposed to be a 10-minute ordeal. So I did, a thing says, any ideas on releasing a line of Faraday bags? Yeah, I worked with my original bag maker 3 years ago, and we experimented with some Faraday materials to do like a man pack. The hard part with doing a Faraday bag, you can't have any type of leakage whatsoever. So every single design for doing a Faraday bag really looks almost like the waterproof bags you'll get. So for example, I went down to the Salt River years ago and wanted to carry a firearm while just wearing flip-flops and my shorts and a t-shirt. So I towed behind me a 5-liter water bag, and it has it's got like a big dump pouch area where you could drop stuff in. And then it has a horizontal piece of fabric with 2 clips, and you roll it over and then you clip it together. And that same type of design is what you have to do with a lot of the Faraday bags. So a lot of them will actually have either the clip design that you'll find like a buckled clip, or they'll use Velcro, where even the Velcro has like copper material lined on the inside. But again, I get a lot of criticism that my bags are too expensive as it is. You know, it is what it is. But even the nav kits on sale to the members are 140 bucks. And I showed people early on in the development that you could build a Kydex version yourself from Amazon with Chinese materials for maybe 20 bucks. So when I looked at the Faraday bag material, I said, there's no way I can do this, because my big TTP man pack, I've only ever been able to produce like 28 of those. Those were $400. And I am working on a new rev of those. They're still going to be 400 bucks. And it just has to do with the fact that it's all American made material, American design. I've got my cost to build the prototypes my bag maker, his 3 sewers, the American components, the HK clips, the YKK zippers, all of that stuff. And there's just no way to do it. In fact, the margins on that are so razor thin. So long story short, can't do Faraday bags because it's just going to be way out of price. I've been using, I think it's Mission Darkness for mine. So I've got the big duffel, and then I have some smaller ones I use for like the cell phone, for example. So I'm a heavy user of Faraday bags actually, and really do recommend them. Furkan says, I'm new to Ubuntu and just tried to use your map project on GitHub, but couldn't so far. Is there a video about how can we install it? Yeah, so you can't, what he's referring to is I've got a bunch of different projects on a GitHub for the ET aircraft. It is not designed to run standalone. All of that stuff, there's a parent project called MCOM Tools Community, and it's designed to work with that platform. So I can run it piecemeal because I know what to do, but there will never be any instructions on how to run it by itself because it's designed to work with the broader platform. Let's see here. I'm going to jump down a little bit here. Let's see, Chris Bricker. Oh, thanks, Bill. I need to buy one. Not sure how I'd build out a rig for that. Okay, don't know what he's talking about. And let's see. I think Kathleen. All right, Kathleen's amazing. Kathleen says she's working on my N-type connector to 3/8 by 24 TPI adapter. Stay tuned. Thank you, Kathleen. So Kathleen does amazing work in terms of fabrication. If you guys have ever seen my videos going back a couple years when I built out my ham shack, because I was primarily a field operator and never had a station at home for the first 3 years of operation. I told her that I was putting non-penetrating roan sleds that you would typically find for like satellite hardware on your roof. So I've got a mat, I had one of those roan devices, and then I've got what almost looks like fence topper coming out the top, and then you can put some clamps. Well, she said, hey, you probably don't want to have something ugly. Your wife might not like it. So rather than doing having like one fence topper to another with those clamps, she fabricated and had me measure the inner diameter of that first fence topper, as well as the outer diameter of my Diamond X50A, and I had another Diamond that I was running my disc cone. And she fabricated these beautiful things that just integrated into the roan sled, sat on top, and then same thing with the antenna itself. So it's just a beautiful piece of work. So she's fabricating for me for use on the TX500MP, a single adapter that will work with the N-type adapter directly to a 3/8 by 24 mount, because it's just amazing. Let me show you a quick reason why it's actually so cool. My friend Brian and I, we have twin units. He got his before mine, and this is on my Instagram, and I'll try to go as big as I can. Let's see here. Okay, I can't go too much bigger. It looks like the, but you can see here we got the twin TX500 MPs, and then we've got this chain of adapters that goes up, I don't know, maybe 3 inches, maybe 2 3/4 inches high. So at the bottom, we have the N-type to SO239. SO239? No, PL259. N-type to PL259. And then I got just a standard, what they call a CB mount to 3/8 by 24. And we made these. And with this configuration, guys, I don't care what you said, what people say. I get, at least on JSA call, which works way down in the noise, on 40 meters. So 35 miles out from my house, 200 miles out, 300 miles out, I get targeted contacts with my group. This antenna, this is the only one that does it, the 40-meter Hustler RM40. It must be the induction from the coils here at the bottom. Sorry about that. It gets those high takeoff angles and does not penetrate the ionosphere, comes back down, and gives us regional coverage. In fact, when I was out in the Chiricahua, I was out in Portal, Arizona, and we were running those regional tests 200 miles out, I tried this same exact setup and I was able to make it 200 miles out. So it was clearing that canyon I was in with those 2,000-foot rock structures and making it out. Again, the signal of reports were low. It was a minus 12 dB on JSA call. When I switched the antenna and went right to the wire antenna that was properly deployed, it jumped to a plus 10 dB. So a 22 dB difference is significant, but it does have NVIS properties. So I'm not going to say it anymore. In the comments, this antenna, yeah, you might get some ground wave propagation, but it does, even at the short, close-in distances, I am getting NVIS propagation. One of the other tests that we did for fun in that car camping video I released, I think last week, one of them had a 17-foot counterpoise for testing. The other one had a 19-foot counterpoise off of the ground lug. And he was walking through the wash and we were doing voice. So not great because, yeah, that was in fact ground wave propagation. But what was nice is our signal probably wasn't making it very far. And we had mobile, on the foot, on the move, HF communication working really well, especially with the tuner cleaning it up, the match on this rig. So anyways, long story short, those are a couple of the tests and why Kathleen is looking at the 3/8 by 24 adapter for the N-type connector. Oh, I've never got one of these in a long time. Thank you so much. Looks like I got 20 bucks my way. Thank you. BHI says, what do you think about the Panasonic FZG1 series? I know they're heavier and bigger. Can they run your e-commerce software? I think he meant MCOM tool software. Yes. In fact, I have tested these from the very beginning. I've had an FZG1 almost at about the same time that I've had my FZM1. So here are my thoughts. I personally do not run them because they are too large for me. They are rugged enough. They're inexpensive. So I would say if you're not going to be taking these man portable, great choice. If you want them for backcountry adventures where you have a vehicle, great fit. You want to take them for Aries use, whatever, fantastic, especially when you pair it with a Bluetooth keyboard. I also recommend the FZG1 for people that have older eyes. Guys, I got bifocals when I turned 44 this past year. I'm still okay with the FZM1, but if you need a slightly larger screen and you want the gear that I run on the channel, the FZG1 is a perfect choice. The other cool thing about the FZG1 is that iKey also makes a keyboard for it, which will give you an extra USB connector, and it will turn it into a ruggedized laptop. But yeah, everything in MCOM tools, R3, R4. I need to test R5, but I haven't done anything that would break the compatibility there. That will actually work with that unit. There is a fan on it, so it has a little bit of noise, but yeah, you can get some light splashes and a few other things. So hopefully that answers your question. It is supported. And then my recommendation is try to find a FZG1 that is a later revision. In the Panasonic world, they call it the Mark. And I think for the G1, it's the Mark 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So stick to either a Mark 4 or a Mark 5. There are differences on the hardware that's supported, I think mostly in terms of the drives. Chris says, I think it would be cool to Poto Rove while hiking, not driving around in a park. Oh, that could be interesting. Oh, here's a recommendation from Ham Radio Tectonics. Give those local hamfests a good look. I found the iKey keyboard at a huge discount from what was offered on the internet while I was in Melbourne. Oh, that's interesting that you found an iKey keyboard out there. I saw mine at $380, which is MSRP, but mine are brand new. But on the Hamfest, I will tell you, if you guys are not licensed, still go to the amateur radio Hamfest in your area. And I've always recommended, if you want a deal, in a lot of cases, that either charge nothing or they're charged like maybe $5 or $10 to get into the Hamfest as a vendor. So all of my FT857s, all of my 818s, all of that hardware that was discontinued and was hard to get. I never bought it on eBay. I never bought it online. I've always bought it probably closer to a 40% and maybe at most 50% price point and in better condition and with more accessories at Hamfests. And I've always secured mine. So rule of thumb for me, if I'm looking for an 857 these days, for example, at a Hamfest, Yaesu FT857D, which I'm not, I've got 3 of them now. I would bring about $500 in cash, give myself about $100 in buffer. If you really want to, bring 600. And I would ask all the vendors before the general public went there. And I have picked up all of them for about $400 in excellent condition instead of paying the $1,000 on something like eBay. So in general, Hamfests are amazing finds. In fact, I offloaded all of my Motorola gear at a deep discount and batteries and you name it. It was probably a bad idea for me to sell, but the Hamfests are way preferable to online purchases. I think we're at the end here. Mr. No Filter says, good morning, everyone. Good morning. And then last one up, and then we're going to call this one, guys. I was not planning on going an hour and 10 units. I didn't realize that you sold them to Prepper. I wasn't trying to undercut you in any way. Yeah, no problem. In fact, I don't know if I'm going to purchase any more. It's too much inventory to have. If anybody is interested, you guys can do me a solid and help me offload these. Let's see here. Let's see what we've got left here. So under home, yeah, it looks like I still have some keyboards. So I'll go ahead and add all 20 quantities or all. I think some I've already sold. I think I have 15 left. I have no plans on buying any more this year. But again, mine are all brand new. I'll toss in some TTP stickers, a patch, do some fun stuff here. So Ed says, it looks like the nav stick or the nav kit is out of stock. Yeah, unfortunately, I literally sold my last units yesterday. He's referring to this guy, but I have 250 more coming. I'm trying to shoot for early November. There are a few small changes coming in, and 50 of them will be limited edition. The big change is for the LE versions around the edge. I'm going to use a multicam for 50 of them. It looks super sharp. It's a non-functional change. And then on the inside, let me see if I got a good shot of the inside here. You can't really see it. I found some 500 denier material that has a printed topographical relief in olive drab with black contour lines. It looks cool. I'm only doing a one-time run because it is going to be about a $20 difference from these ones. But yeah, November, I'm pretty sure that'll be a public release because the sales pretty much slowed down for all the members. And again, on the membership side, just to help me do everything I'm doing, develop goods like this, the software you're seeing, the videos for me not to go back into the corporate world. The Buy Me a Coffee membership really helps me out. And gold is guaranteed access to whatever I release. Silver gets 80% of the remaining inventory, and then about 20% of the inventory goes to the basic members. So I have yet to do a public release on any of the products, whether it's something like the, I think I'm out of almost everything right now, but like the Manpack bags, for example, these guys never went public. The only stuff that's ever gone public are things like patches. But anyways, guys, thank you. A lot of good stuff. If you've missed the beginning, check that out because I thought the software and the direction that I'm trying to take off-grid, offline, simple to use is amazing. Anyways, I'm blessed to have you guys in my group. Really appreciate it. If you can, share my videos. I want to get back into YouTube's good graces. But yeah, have a wonderful Sunday, guys. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.